Today we will discuss DC profiles. In this episode, we will discuss Migo Lee and the Kennedy Street indictment. Migo Lee is a rapper from the 7th and Kennedy Street area of Northwest DC. Lee mentions a person called Dushy in his music a lot, and Dushy is brother who passed alongside his aunt in 2021 after ops from R.I.C.O Park would get up on him and 2 others causing them to pass away. The article says 3 people have been killed and 3 people have been injured in a Northwest DC shooting Saturday night in the 600 block of Longfellow Street, NW, according to DC Police Chief Robert Conte. Those killed have been identified as 31-year-old Donetta Dyson of Northeast DC, 24-year-old Keenan Braxton of Northwest DC, and 37-year-old Johnny Joyner of Northeast DC. Conte said in his comments that those who were injured are expected to recover from their injuries. A family friend of Braxton's said he has a 3-year-old daughter and that his younger brother is one of the 3 injured victims, nursing a leg wound. Multiple friends and neighbors of Dyson's said she has 2 kids. Woosa 9's Colby Satterfield talked with someone who lives close by that said it sounded like a lot of rapid fireworks amid the backdrop of a Labor Day weekend in the district. I didn't see much, but I heard probably 20+ gunshots, like different rifles. It's like right outside of our door, neighbor Maria Crossman said.
On another violent weekend in the district, DC police have reported at least 6 shooting incidents since Saturday evening. The number of people dead from the weekend is at 4, with at least 4 others wounded, according to police reports. Our Scott Broom is in the Brightwood Park neighborhood in Northwest Washington, where a gunman opened fire on a gathering on Longfellow Street Saturday night. Scott, what do you know?
Yeah, that's right. This is the incident where the most people were injured in one incident. 3 people were killed in this neighborhood in that incident, and 3 others were wounded. That happened on Saturday night, and since then, on Sunday, gunfire erupted twice in the same block, in a block in Petworth, according to police.
Among the casualties this weekend was 31-year-old Donetta Dyson, a patient services assistant working in the operating rooms of the MedStar Washington Hospital Center. The hospital posting on Facebook that she had a kind heart and worked tirelessly serving our patients and the community with grace and dedication.
She was a very good neighbor.
A neighbor who did not want to be identified told WUSA 9 that Dyson was a mother of 2. She was one of 3 people killed in a mass shooting Saturday evening near the intersection of 7th and Longfellow in Brightwood Park. The others were 37-year-old Johnny Joyner and 24-year-old Keenan Braxton. 3 others were injured. Metropolitan Police released this photo of a black Honda Accord sedan they say carried a gunman who leapt out and started firing at a gathering of people on the block. And there was more shooting in neighboring Petworth. This time, 2 separate shootings in the same block, just hours apart. It was near the intersection of Georgia Avenue and Morton Street Northwest. A man was wounded in the first shooting at 2 a.m. Sunday. A man died in the second shooting that happened about 7:30 p.m. Police released images of cars they believe were linked on Morton Street.
Now, police have not discussed what they believe the motives may be in any of these incidents or if they are related, but in the incident that occurred here near the Kennedy Street corridor, there is a $75,000 reward for information that might lead to the gunman who leapt out of that car. Reporting live in Northwest, Scott Broom, WUSA 9.
After this hit, allegedly, Migo Lee would send anonymous tips to law enforcement, and his mother is supposed to testify against the suspects from R.I.C.O Park. Now, we will get into the arrest of the suspects on Saturday, September 4th, 2021 at approximately 7:33 p.m. An officer with the Metropolitan Police Department's MPD 4th District was in the area of 7th Street NW and Kennedy Street NW when he heard the sound of gunshots. The officer immediately canvassed the area and located 6 shooting victims in the 600 block of Longfellow Street NW, Washington, D.C. Members of the DC Fire and Emergency Medical Services, DC FEMS, responded to the scene and transported the victims to local hospitals. While en route to the hospitals, 3 of the victims died from their injuries. The bodies of the 3 decedents, Donetta Dyson, Decedent 1, Keenan Braxton, Decedent 2, and Johnny Joyner, Decedent 3, were transported to the DC office of the Chief Medical Examiner, OCME. Decedents 1 and 2 were pronounced dead at 7:40 p.m., and Decedent 3 was pronounced dead at 8:05 p.m. The 3 remaining victims received treatment for their injuries at local hospitals and have since been released. On Sunday, September 5th, 2021, Dr. Kimberly Giese of the OCME performed autopsies on the remains of the 3 decedents. Dr. Giese concluded that the cause of death for each of the decedents was gunshot wounds to the body, and the manner of death for all 3 was homicide. Evidence collection technicians processed the scene in the 600 block of Longfellow Street in W. Numerous cartridge casings were recovered in the yard of 639 Longfellow Street, NW, the corner house, and the adjacent sidewalk. The cartridge casings recovered in this area were further examined and were determined to represent 3 different calibers of firearms: 40 caliber, 15 casings recovered, 5.7 x 28 mm, 4 casings recovered, and 7.62 x 39 mm, 8 casings recovered. Additionally, cartridge casings of several different calibers and a firearm were located further into the 600 block of Longfellow Street, NW, closer to the vicinity to where the victims of the shooting were positioned, and a firearm was found in the 500 block of Longfellow Street, NW. There were multiple security cameras in the area of the shooting. Upon review of the footage from the various cameras, a black Honda Accord, suspect vehicle, with dark tinted windows was observed traveling north in the 5400 block of 7th Street, NW, south of the intersection with Kennedy Street. The suspect vehicle continued north on 7L Street at that intersection. The suspect vehicle continued through the 5500 block of 7L Street, NW, and crossed the intersection of 7 and Longfellow Streets, NW. The driver, herein referred to as Suspect 4, appeared to be wearing a light-colored face covering. The suspect vehicle continued approximately 30 yards into the $600 block of 7th Street, NW, north of the intersection with Longfellow Street, and came to a stop in an unoccupied space, but did not pull fully to the curb. Suspect 1 emerged from the front passenger seat, Suspect 2 emerged from the rear passenger seat, and Suspect 3 emerged from the rear driver's side seat. All 3 were armed and appeared to be wearing masks. Suspect 4 remained in the vehicle. The suspect vehicle stayed in the same place with the 2 rear doors remaining open until the suspects returned after the shooting. Suspects 1 through 3 stealthily approached the side of 639 Longfellow Street. NW, suspects 1 through 3 peered around the corner of 639 Longfellow Street, NW, to look in the direction of the victims, who were congregated on the sidewalk beginning approximately 4 houses into the block. Suspects 1 and 2 used the structure as cover and opened fire on the victims. At the same time, Suspect 3 remained on the sidewalk at the corner of 7th and Longfellow Streets, NW, and opened fire in the same direction as Suspects 1 and 2. After shooting, the suspects ran back towards the suspect vehicle, which was still waiting in the 5600 block of 7L Street. Suspect 1 briefly returned to their original position next to 639 Longfellow Street, NW, and fired at least 1 additional shot. Suspects 2 and 3 entered the suspect vehicle. As Suspect 1 neared the suspect vehicle, the front passenger door was pushed open and suspect. I entered that door as the vehicle began to drive off. The suspect vehicle drove to the next intersection and went east in the 600 block of Madison Street, NW. Suspect I was wearing a face covering, a black jacket, hood up, with a white logo on the left chest, black pants with tears on both knees and white dots on the left thigh, and black and white sneakers. Suspect 1 was armed with a black and brown rifle-styled firearm. Suspect 2 was wearing a black hooded top, hood up, light-colored pants with a large rectangular tag hanging from the rear right pocket, and black and white sneakers. Suspect 3 was wearing a dark face covering, a hooded black top, hood up, dark-colored pants, and black shoes. Footage captured from a different camera in the same area also recorded the audio of the shooting. Based on this video and physical evidence recovered in the block, it is clear that subjects located in the 600 block of Longfellow Street, NW, in close proximity to the victims, fired shots in response to the initial shots fired by suspects 1 through 3. These subjects continued to fire as the suspects ran back to the suspect vehicle. Given the suspect vehicle's whereabouts, it is not believed the vehicle was struck by any of those shots. Witness I was interviewed on scene. Witness I stated that after IT heard the gunshots, IT observed the suspect vehicle, which it described as being a newer and clean four-door black Honda Accord. Witness 1 said the suspect vehicle had a Virginia license plate, which began with either a U or a V. Witness 1 described the driver, suspect 4, as wearing a COVID mask. Witness I described seeing the vehicle travel east on Madison Street after the shooting and then proceed north on 5th Street. In the hours after the shooting, the MPD publicly released information pertaining to the suspect vehicle. At 8:06 p.m., the MPD posted to a social media account that there was a lookout for a dark-colored sedan with tinted windows and chrome-colored rims. At 9:47 p.m., MPD Chief of Police Robert J. Conte held a press conference to provide an update regarding this incident. During the press conference, Chief Conte described the suspect vehicle as a dark-colored Honda Accord. At 9:56 p.m. and again at 10:05 p.m., the MPD shared an image of the suspect vehicle on their social media account. In the days following the shooting, the MPD received several calls pertaining to the black Honda Accord lookout. There was no information or evidence that directly linked any of these vehicles to being the suspect vehicle, which was discovered the next day engulfed in flames. During the investigation into the shootings, law enforcement learned that the victims were with others in the 600 block of Longfellow Street, NW, at the time of the shooting. At this time, it is unknown if the group gathered because it was Decedent 3's birthday or some other reason. Individuals affiliated with the KDY crew, KDY, spend time in and around the area where this shooting occurred. In fact, the MPD Intelligence Branch had recently validated Decedents 2 and 3 and 2 of the surviving victims as being affiliated with KDY. Law enforcement has monitored the social media accounts of individuals associated with the rival crews that are beefing with KDY. In doing so, law enforcement has observed that various crew members of Riggs Park, CRT, Crittenden Street, and the Uno Mafia Market Boys, which is from the area of Missouri Market, appear to associate with each other. Detectives have learned that approximately 1 hour before this homicide, there was a shooting in front of 823 Oglethorpe Street, NE, in which one person was shot in the arm. Based on video footage from the area, it was determined that the suspects arrived in a dark-colored SUV and fired as they drove by. Subjects from the 800 block of Oglethorpe Street and often affiliate with the Riggs Park crew to include the individual who was shot in the arm. Video footage from the area captured numerous individuals socializing in front 823 Oglethorpe Street, NE before this shooting. The video did not continuously record. Officer 1, who was assigned to the MPD Intelligence Branch and monitors subjects associated various crews in the 4th District, recognized one of the individuals to be Kamar Queen. Queen has a close relationship with the family who resides at that location. Based on the video, Queen was last seen in front of 823 Oglethorpe Street NE less than 10 minutes before the Oglethorpe Street shooting. At the time, Queen was wearing a gray sweatshirt, a white undershirt, light-colored pants with a large rectangular tag hanging from the rear right pocket, and yellow sneakers. Officer 1's knowledge of Queen comes from monitoring social media related to crews operating in the 4 District, including Queen's social media listed below. Officer 1 saw Queen in person once during an attempted stop, but he ran and was not apprehended. Officer 1 initially identified Suspect 4 as an individual and then indicated Suspect 4 was another person. The pants worn by Queen appear to be the same style of pants worn by Suspect 2 shooting at 7th Street, NW, and Longfellow Street, NW, an hour later.
Begin today at 4 with arrests in a shooting that shocked the district over Labor Day weekend. Good afternoon. I'm Pat Lawson-Muse.
And I'm Leon Harris. 6 people were shot and 3 killed in a drive-by on Longfellow Street Northwest in early September. Today, D.C. police announced that 2 men are in custody and charged with first-degree premeditated murder. News 4's Paul Wagner explains how police tracked the suspects down.
The shooting on Longfellow Street was so horrific, so disturbing. The mayor and the chief wanted to announce the arrests together, standing in front of the 4th District station with their federal partners behind them, the Marshal Service, the ATF, and the FBI.
On the night of these murders, I said there is no place for those that commit violence in our communities. I also said MPD would get accountability for those that commit violent actions. On that night, I said what I meant, and I meant what I said.
D.C. Police Chief Robert Conti said the Capital Area Regional Fugitive Task Force last night located and arrested 27-year-old Erwin DeBose and 24-year-old Kamar Queen. The motive?
Unfortunately, it's a very senseless act. I mean, that's really kind of the bottom line. You know, nothing would justify this type of violence.
Now, we will briefly go over the Kennedy Street RICO. In this indictment, multiple Kennedy Street members would go down with large amounts of cash, drugs, and guns. On January 26, 2023, another interdiction operation occurred at BWI. Collie Brown, Herman Signew, and another KDY associate were flying back from Los Angeles with several pieces of checked-in luggage. A K-9 positively indicated upon luggage associated with their traveling party, and law enforcement seized 5 pieces of their luggage, therein finding 86.4 pounds of marijuana similarly packaged in vacuum-sealed bags. See below for a comparison of the packaging across the 3 different airport interdictions involved in this investigation. During the January 26, 2023 interdiction at BWI, Collie Brown and Signew snuck past officers out of the airport with 2 pieces of luggage, but surveilling officers followed their vehicle to 1704 D Street NE, later discovered to be a stash house. Surveillance officers watched Collie Brown and Signew enter 1704 D Street NE with the 2 pieces of luggage. Later that same day, upon securing a residential search warrant, law enforcement entered the stash house. At the time, law enforcement entered the residence. Collie Brown, Tristan Ware, Herman Signew, Defendant 3, Defendant 7, and 4 juveniles were in the basement. Scattered throughout that same basement of the stash house, law enforcement found 10 loaded firearms, 2 of which were machine guns. 4 of those firearms were found in a suitcase, shown below, that also contained bulk quantities of marijuana, 35 little pills of fentanyl, approximately 39.4 gray, and 50 pills of oxycodone. At the bottom of the basement stairs was another suitcase containing more distribution quantities of bulk marijuana. AYNV member named Dizzy, who is also related to Migo Lee and Dushy, would be arrested after spinning Morton 6, 4-0, and Riggs Park in retaliation for his brother Dushy and another family member named Tall Step, who I discuss in this video. That's the end of this episode of DC Profiles. Like, comment, subscribe, 300 likes for DC Profiles High Class 23.